So I'm going to talk about moving MongoDB workloads to Postgres. Who uses MongoDB from here? Who uses Postgres? Okay, that's a 100% overlap. Happy to hear that. So my name is Péter Farkas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FerretDB, and we are an open source database software company, and we are developing an open source MongoDB alternative. But this is not going to be a sales pitch here. This is going to be the cold hard reality of MongoDB, Postgres, and what's in between. I already heard Tom wanting to move some MongoDB workloads to Postgres, and today I'm going to talk about why would you want to do this and how can this happen with a reasonable degree of success. So first of all, we have this nice graph from the Stack Exchange Developers Survey of 2023. I'm not sure if there's a newer one, but the point still stands. So there is an outlier on this graph. If you take a look, there's Postgres on the top, overtaking MySQL for the first time in this survey. It's like 76K responses, so quite a good sample. Then we have MySQL, SQLite, MongoDB, and Microsoft SQL Server. What's the outlier on this graph? Of course, we have. How did you? How did you did? Wow. Yes, and of course, Microsoft SQL Server. But the interesting thing about this list is that MongoDB is the outlier because it's the only document database software, and it's also not open source. So Postgres is open source, MySQL is open source, SQLite is open source. The only document database out there which is really, really popular among developers is not open source. Not open source anymore. Why would you even want to use a document database? So I'm trying to not ask this question very frequently, because it's actually up to the developers to decide whether they want to use the document database, the document model, or the relational one. What we know for sure is that talking to large companies, some of them have thousands of developers, especially JavaScript developers, but some other languages are represented as well, but mainly web connection to web technologies. They love MongoDB, and they would like to implement anything in connection with the database in the application level. So they don't really want to learn about database internals or how to come up with a good schema for their workloads. They just use MongoDB. And MongoDB Inc., the company behind MongoDB, did a really good job with educating people, educating developers to leverage this kind of flexibility. So there might be reasons for you to think that just use Postgres, but the world is a lot more complex than that, I believe. So MongoDB is great. Many developers think it is. I also think it is, but it comes with a weird license, the SSPL license, which they came up with in 2018. And it's actually an attempt from MongoDB Inc. to come up with a new open source license. However, it came with restrictions which made it impossible to accept as an open source license. First of all, it discriminates against use cases. Certain use cases like providing MongoDB as a service in a cloud environment, and many other things, of course. And I'm going to go into this a bit. Absolutely.
So if you're saying part of a cloud service, are you just talking about it as a managed service, or just anywhere was pulling in, like you've got your own thing going on and you're going to use a controller model?
Sorry, what is your name again?
Nicole.
Nicole, okay. Nicole, that's a great question, and this is what everybody would ask in the situation where you would try to decide whether you can use this product. Because the SSPL license says, I'm not a lawyer, but this is what, this is what we know. The SSPL license says that you can provide MongoDB as a service if you added enough additional features, enough value on top of it to be able to do that. But how do you define whether you added enough value? I mean, take a look at any court case which tries to go through these vague definitions of value and stuff like that. Talking to should I have a slide about this? Talking to users, enterprise companies with legal departments, larger than this building, they couldn't figure out whether they are in the right or in the wrong using MongoDB. So it comes with a certain degree of legal risk. If I want to be fair, I think the intention of the SSPL license is to keep cloud providers from providing MongoDB as a service without paying to MongoDB Inc. But as we learned the hard way, since then we got cease and desist letters from MongoDB where they don't like that there is an alternative on the market, like FerretDB or some others, which tells me that there's more into this rather than just being afraid of AWS or Azure or the like. So even if you think that you're not impacted by this, because you have no intention to provide MongoDB as a service, you're just a user, you just want to use MongoDB maybe on-prem, maybe somewhere else, you are impacted because there's this provider called Civo, not sure if you're familiar with them, and they provide lots of different databases as a service. And since the SSPL is a thing, they can only provide the outdated lost GPL version of MongoDB as a service. They are not allowed to upgrade anymore because the next version comes with SSPL. The problem with this is that if you use any features or you're just concerned about using an outdated 2018 version of something in your stack, you have no other option but to go to MongoDB or their licensed partners, which means that competition in providing these services is much smaller and costs are going to be higher. You don't have these wealth of options like you do with MySQL or Postgres or any real open source database out there. And if you work with databases, you know how scary it is to just have one or two vendors to provide you service. And then when the SSPL license came about, lots of different large enterprises wanted to come up with alternatives, and of course they did. So we have a number of good alternatives out there for MongoDB. We have Azure Cosmos DB, we have Amazon Document DB, we even have Huawei's Gauss DB. I couldn't get access to that, but it exists. Of course, even Oracle implemented their own MongoDB alternatives because, of course, Oracle is very concerned about the market and vendor lock-in, and they want to save the day, right? Probably not. The problem here is that these alternatives don't offer MongoDB compatibility to a degree where you can just take any workload and start running in this alternative. The second problem with these alternatives is that these are all tied to a cloud vendor. So if you want to get away from MongoDB and the vendor lock-in, well, you're going to get yourself into a different vendor lock-in situation. It's a different flavor, same thing. Hello, Fernando. So yeah, the issue with MongoDB alternatives is that it's a vastly different feature set, even even between each other. You can't just move between Azure and DocumentDB. You have no chance to migrate between them without evaluating these products. All of them are proprietary, so same vendor locking situation, and especially MongoDB alternatives will always be running after MongoDB with their features. So they have this pressure to come up with features which mimics MongoDB's behavior, but since MongoDB itself evolves, there is no way to catch up with them, and you will be finding yourself, even as a user, part of a constant battle to decide, okay, do we deprecate the same features as MongoDB deprecates? Do we add the new ones which they decided to add? And it's going to be constantly evolving along the way. So I think we need a new open standard, same way we have with SQL, which describes the feature set, which describes the behavior of MongoDB-compatible databases or document databases in general. I started this very new initiative, opendocdb.org. We are looking for supporters of this initiative, and hopefully the market is going to come together and just describe the behavior we expect from a MongoDB-compatible database, making it not a MongoDB alternative anymore, but more like the product or the standard which enables products to become compatible with each other. This open standard is, of course, going to take a long time to materialize, but it's never late to start. It's going to be a JSON-based query language, in my opinion, and it will be very, very similar to MongoDB, but it will decouple the market from MongoDB itself moving forward. We think that MongoDB is going to become a commodity, just like SQL. So MongoDB compatibility on top of Postgres. I usually describe why would you want to do this. I think I went into enough detail on the vendor lock-in situation and everything else to have an idea about this, but if you have questions, let me know. Just a couple of thoughts about what MongoDB compatibility means. So MongoDB compatibility means that you run a Postgres instance, you have some sort of extension or a proxy layer or whatever else, and you can run the same MongoDB workloads on Postgres as you would with MongoDB. So I often get asked, okay, how the migration should happen? Well, it's like migrating between two MongoDB instances. So the compatibility means that you migrate off of your current MongoDB instance to a new instance which is based on Postgres, behaves like MongoDB, but no special tools or knowledge would be needed. FerretDB would be one of the solutions out there which would enable you to do this. So it's Apache 2.0, it's written in Go, and it can utilize various databases as backend, but mostly Postgres. How it works is that right now, the MongoDB API and the MongoDB engine is protected by the SSPL license, and the MongoDB drivers themselves, which the developers are interacting with, are Apache 2.0. It's not really possible to change the license with the drivers themselves. And how an alternative looks like, in this case, FerretDB, is that there are the MongoDB drivers provided by MongoDB. There's a layer, a proxy layer, or an extension which interfaces with Postgres and the drivers themselves. And together, these would be covered by an open source license, making your MongoDB stack or part of your MongoDB stack open source. This really means that if you have an application, if you have a framework which requires MongoDB, it should not notice that it no longer is running on MongoDB. It's like MongoDB Community Edition or whatever else. If you look at this is MongoDB Compass, the most popular MongoDB database management tool out there by MongoDB. And this is a FerretDB instance right now. It connects to a FerretDB instance. And as you can see, it thinks that it's actually MongoDB Community Edition, which is great because your developers can just do the same thing as they did before without having to relearn anything. Why did we choose Postgres? I think this slide doesn't belong to a Postgres conference. I think Postgres is just great, and we all know why it is the right choice. First of all, JSON compatibility, but also looking at the audience here, there are lots of Postgres users who are also running MongoDB workloads. So there's an interesting overlap between the two crowds here. With FerretDB or a similar alternative, you can actually turn Postgres as a service providers like Yugabyte or EDB's Big Animal or Percona to a MongoDB, managed MongoDB service. So you register for an account, you start a Postgres instance, you run FerretDB or some other similar alternative on top of it, and bam, you have the exact thing what the SSPL license prohibits you to do. So you have managed MongoDB on top of a managed Postgres service. Not just Postgres, I'm not going to go much into this, but just so you know, you can also turn other stuff into MongoDB as well, like SQLite or SAP HANA, which SAP came up with. It was totally unexpected. I talked about this, so why not? I got the question many times, why not just use Postgres and JSON? It's not possible, I believe, to just tell thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of developers to just relearn everything you know and put up with it. And last but not least, we have some interesting blog articles. If you want to migrate off MongoDB to Postgres, there's blog.ferretdb.io or ferretdb.com, and you can just click on the blog there, read a bit about what we do, why we are doing it. I invite you to try to move your MongoDB workloads. We have some nice documentation on how to migrate, how to do pre-migration testing to see if this is feasible. Tom, I think this might be very useful to you, and we're also there to help you. No expectation that you're going to pay us anything or whatever. This is not a sales pitch. We are genuinely interested whether you have a workload which can be moved from MongoDB to Postgres, and we would like to learn about the reasons why you can't, in case you wouldn't be able to. So conclusion here, I think there's a good reason to move MongoDB workloads to Postgres. There's an inevitable push towards supporting different workloads in Postgres. The whole point of extensions would be exactly that, and we think that MongoDB is a really good candidate to try that out in the real world and just make users successful, MongoDB users successful with Postgres, as weird as it sounds. With FerretDB, we have lots of users at this point, thousands of active instances from among those who enable telemetry, which I urge you to do because it provides us great feedback. We are onboarding real-world users, financial institutions and banks looking to combine their database infrastructure into as fewer building blocks as possible. And of course, you can visit us on GitHub. You can try managed FerretDB with several different service providers if you're interested, and we are eager to help you to make this a successful success for your organization. We also have the document database community. Bruce Momjian just presented their monthly or bi-weekly talks about the document database industry, vendors, and the convergence of database products. So if you have a topic, if you have a use case, you are more than welcome to present on any of these events. We are completely neutral on your topic, so if you think that this is the worst idea possible, that MongoDB workloads should run on Postgres, we would welcome you to present about it. It's documentdatabase.org. And with that, thank you so much. These are our useful links here if you would like to learn more about this subject or FerretDB itself, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Where do you list out all the other companies that you have integrations with? So I noticed you call it for learning, like for infrastructure automation, pulling that into a CI/CD pipeline. Do you also work with like Terraform providers? Do you have where can I go see a list of that?
It's mainly on our blog. You're actually bringing up a valid point here. I think we did not do a good enough job to provide a full list. We occasionally blog about it, and some of them are on our website. The strange thing is sometimes we don't even know that we work with something. So the good thing about FerretDB is that since it's MongoDB compatible, lots of things just work. Like you use them. It's very likely, yes. So that's our aim. But there are specific types of integrations which would need our work on our end as well, and usually those are the ones we blog about, like SAP HANA. That was one of these.
How does the performance of MongoDB application, if I'm running MongoDB Atlas versus using FerretDB?
Atlas is faster. So you are going to see performance degradation in various different scenarios. Our goal is to support 85% of MongoDB workloads out there when it comes to compatibility and performance. Some MongoDB workloads requiring a very low latency or some other attribute which is not possible with this Postgres workaround of the SSPL license is, of course, it's going to be harder to migrate. But in 85–90% of the cases, you will be able to live with this small difference in performance, latency, or throughput, or whatever else. It's also important to know that it depends on the backend as well. So you may be successful with something on Yugabyte or on-prem or some other provider, and some other providers may not be able to deliver that kind of performance for you. I agree, Fernando. I think vendor lock-in is a huge price to pay in itself. But when it comes to performance degradation, if you need to run more instances or larger a larger backend infrastructure than you would with MongoDB, you would probably be still paying less because of how MongoDB Atlas is priced. So we are absolutely not concerned that this is going to be more expensive than MongoDB Atlas for you. That's probably the worst choice out there. All right, thank you so much for coming, and feel free to connect and discuss if you have some workloads you would like us to look at. Thank you so much.